everyone, it's Lisa. Welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be doing something that is very highly requested. I have some photographs of handwritten recipes that I will be engraving onto these boards. So I have 3 different styles that I'm going to show you how you can easily trace it. We have a basic INLINE design. This is on a heart charcuterie board. Then we have a design that's lined, and I put that on a board. And then my last one was a design that had a lot of staining in the background. So we did a trace and we have it on one of these basic boards. Now this is something that I will be using Silhouette Studio to use. Glowforge does have a way for you to bring in a picture and have it engraved, but with handwritten recipes it can be difficult because there are creases in the paper and all those different things that show up. So we're gonna go through, do this in Silhouette Studio. If you clean up your files well enough, you can also use this for vinyl, which is a great 1-2 punch for the holiday season. So if you're watching this video and you think, hey, I'd like to get a Glowforge, you can use the code in the description and you can save up to $500 on a new machine. Alrighty guys, I'm going to start with the first one and we're going to work our way up to the different designs. So some of this can take more work than others. If you do have the Glowforge, a lot of times you can put a piece of paper in it and it'll scan it for you. But the majority of cases that I have seen, you will be sent photos of the recipe. So I'm going to work off of using a photo. So right here, this is a cookie recipe. This is actually a combination of recipes. I'm going to be working primarily with this forgotten cookie recipe. So let's zoom in so we can look at it. So overall, it looks pretty good. We do have this right here with this little spot for several hours. Okay, so we're pretty good. We don't even have to worry too much because we don't need that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the contrast. Or actually, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get rid of these other ones. So there's a couple things you can do. Just to be super quick, I'm gonna take the knife tool and just cut across here. And then cut across here. And now if I go back to my select tool, check it out. Now these are separate, delete, delete. Now you could also use many other tools. You can draw a square over it and do a crop. I did that because it was just really quick. All right, so the easiest way to trace is to make sure we have our image set up with the best amount of contrast as possible. Now in the perfect world, you'd have a white piece of paper with some black marker and it'll be super easy to trace. But that's the tricky part when you have a handwritten recipe. It's a sentimental value, and so it's probably been something that's been around for a while and it's been passed around a lot. So being able to convert a recipe over is really important to know how to do, because that way you can give a special gift to someone. It's a great item instead of making them put in a ton of work for it, if that makes sense. I'm gonna grab this recipe here and we're gonna go over here to the image effects panel. It's like a half, I always think of it as those black and white cookies. I don't know if you guys do that, but I always think of the black and white cookies. So we're gonna go over here and we're going to modify it a little bit. So you see all this stuff around here? So we're going to go to brightness and contrast. So I'm going to up the contrast a decent amount. You can see it you know, shows up more there. Saturation, let's slide it. So I'm bringing, for this one, I'm bringing the saturation down because it'll get that yellow out. It'll make that text sit a little bit better. Let's see, we don't need any of that. We don't need sepia. I think we're pretty good. We don't need tint. Sometimes you can go through and you know, increase your gray shade. Let me cancel that. Oops, I forgot to save. So let's go back, increase our contrast. There you go. And let's go ahead and apply that. And let's check that out. I think we're pretty good there. Let's go ahead and leave it like this. So you can see it's black and white. It looks a little bit easier. So now I'm gonna go to my trace panel. It looks like the butterfly, and select trace area. We're going to draw a shape around our design. And I drew it a little bit too close, so I'm going to kind of drag it over like that and make my box just a little bit bigger. So the way that this works is it looks for like the depth, the darkness. So it's picking up just a little bit of it. I'm going to go ahead and pull my threshold up. So you can see we're getting some tracing going on. So the yellow is our final shape. So you see we're gonna have some difficulty right here because of the fold. So let's go through and kind of bring our scale down a little bit. And let's see how, oops, don't use high pass. All right, so we're checking that out. And this gives us a pretty good base. We're going to have to do a little bit of editing. So let's go ahead and trace. Let's move that to the side. And now we can fill that in. So check it out. It's a pretty good base for our design. We can kind of check this out. Honestly, I think it looks really great with the exception of this fold right here. So we're gonna do a little bit of point editing to correct that. So let me go right here. And so we're going to double click to get into point edit mode. And you can see this thing has a ton of points. So actually, let me get out of that. Let's click off. And we're going to kind of check this out. So some of this, we are going to use little tools. So I'm going to use my knife tool and cut right here. It's processing. And I'm going to cut right here. So we have that. Now I'm going to use the erase tool and erase some of this. Now you can get rid of it with point editing, but if you have an eraser, why not use it? And I'm actually going to make it a little bit larger up in this quick access toolbar. Kind of go from there, just be really careful. Right, and then I'm going to go down here and erase over there. So there are several ways that you can edit. When the text is pretty good and there's just an area that needs to come out, I think that the eraser tool is highly underrated. We don't use it nearly enough, so I love using it. All right, so I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller. And I'm gonna use my select zoom to take it out over here. And we'll even do some clicking in here. All right. Now let's zoom out. Oops, a little bit too much. Now let's zoom right there. So again, I'm just going to erase just a little bit. I'm gonna leave that. I think that's just, you know, part of how a recipe works. Now that I'm zooming out, it does look really, I don't know, speckly is not the word, but that's what I'm going to use. It's just kind of jagged here. So I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. Just click erase these little parts in here. And let's make our eraser just a little bit smaller. And right here. Now don't forget, you know, you have that cutesy little like vintage look that goes with this. I'm just gonna get rid of some of these stray marks. There's not a whole lot, but just erase that over there. And honestly, I'm pretty happy with this. You can tell what it is, you know, it's just got that look to it. So I'm just gonna grab the whole thing. I want to make it an item, so Control E, make compound path, one big object. And now we have it all set like that. So I'm going to go to File, Save Selection, and then I'm going to save it to my hard drive and choose SVG, and that will save it as an SVG design. So let me go ahead and save this, and then I'm going to show you a couple other traces that we can do. So I have my cutting board loaded. I'm using a cutie little heart cutting board from Johnson Plastic Plus. So before I do my settings or anything else, I'm going to use the 3 dots, set my focus, put it on the middle of the board. Now while that runs, I'm going to enter my settings. So I am going to engrave. and I use a bamboo preset that I made. I do my speed at 100 and my power at, my speed at 1000 and power at 100 and 270 lines per inch. Because this is more detailed, I am actually going to increase it a little bit more to 340 lines per inch. And then I'm going to make sure this is set to auto. All right, so let's go ahead and save that. Now, if I do something that's not so detailed, I may, I'll decrease the lines per inch, but I'm doing a lot of cutting boards right now, so I don't think I'm going to need it. All right, so we're gonna set this up. I think it's gonna look really cute in this board. The only hard part with this that I have trouble with is that this is a dark mask that I have on my cutting board, and it's on a dark background. Now, next time I may just put like a white piece of paper so I can have better contrast, but we're just gonna lay it out and see how it goes. So we have that set right here. Let's go ahead and hit print. This will calculate how long it's going to take. It's probably going to take a little bit longer just because engraving takes longer to begin with, and then when you increase lines per inch, that's more passes that it needs to do, which takes longer. So I'm going to see how that goes. We're going to process, let me know how it is, and we'll be ready to start engraving a board. All right, guys, it'll be 17 minutes and 53 seconds. Let's go ahead and run this one. Right, so this one's probably going to be the toughest because there's a lot of handwriting, different versions of handwriting on it. So let's go through. I'm going to resize that, click here to get in the middle of my workspace. All right, so I'm rotating it. All right, so this has the handwriting of 3 people and it's kind of curved. So we got a little bit of adjusting we have to do. We're going to have to do a decent amount of point editing. So first I'm going to try to set it up for success as much as I can. I'm going to up the contrast. You can really see the text stands out. Let's see how the saturation goes. I'll bring it down a little bit. Brightness, let's see how that, oops, that's a little bit too much. So the brightness probably won't help in this case. Let's apply that. Let's see how we can give it a different hue, if that helps. Basically, we want to try to take out as much color as possible. Probably not going to do hue, if I'm being honest. All right. All right, so it colorized it oh, I should select it, right? All right. So no hue. Let's see if any gamma helps. Maybe a tiny bit. We'll do that. Apply. I don't think we need to, no, we're not inverting it. Check this out. I increased the grayscale. That helps a little bit. And then apply. So again, this is still going to be a little bit tricky, but we're at least making it a little bit easier. All right, so let's go to the trace panel, select trace area, try to get it as close to this box as possible so you don't get the edge over there. All right, and move this over just a tiny bit. Cool, so a good start. I'm gonna zoom in so I can see my words better. All right, let's increase our threshold. You can see our letters are showing up. Honestly, I think it looks pretty good. I think this is what I was the most concerned about, but it's looking kind of nice. All right, so I brought it back a little bit. I didn't want too much fuzz coming in over there, but I mean, not too bad. And then, so this right here, we're really gonna have to fix. So let's go ahead and trace this. And what we can also do is let's fill it in to see how it looks. And I'm gonna keep the red box in there for now. Okay, so the Love Claire at the bottom didn't do well, so let's go ahead and try to trace Claire's separately to see if we can kind of adjust it a little bit. So let's go ahead, let's bring our threshold up. Okay, so we start getting this stuff over here, that's the tricky part. So let's turn it off and see if we can trace by color and see if that will fit. Oh, that'll do the whole design. I don't want to do that. So let's back up out of that. All right, so let's zoom in and check out this name down here. Let's check it out a little bit more. All right, so let's select our trace area. Let's grab Claire's name. Let's see if we can get our threshold up just a little bit more. All right, so we get to that stain. So we're gonna go ahead, bring our scale down to keep it smooth, and let's trace it. So this will take a little bit of point editing and some adjustments, but we can do it. All right, so let's check this out. Let's fill this in. First thing I'm gonna do, actually, while I'm testing, is I'm going to change the color on this and bring this over and see if it will weld with this and fill it in a little bit better. Let's see. No, it traced about the same area. So we're going to go and I'm gonna move this to the side. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Because then I can just get rid of this whole area right here. All right, so let's go ahead and erase this. All right, and this bottom right here. And let's grab this. Cool, so we're just erasing. And I think, let me grab my mouse. We can start selecting some of this stuff because we've erased, it's broken apart our design. And I'm gonna select some of this stuff and hold down Shift to keep it. Actually, I don't wanna do that. So let's just start selecting some of this stuff too, because it'll be pretty easy to delete all these little areas. So, you know, you can use the eraser when you need to get in, and then you can also, once you use the eraser, kind of grab a bunch at a time, and I'm holding down Shift to deselect what I want to keep. Check it out. All that junk is gone. Let me redo that. That's 48 little shapes. So now I can go in here, start selecting stuff, hold down Shift to deselect what I actually want to keep. And now I'm cleaning up some of this junk over here. So there are several methods that I've shown you in here how you can clean it up. Do whatever works best for you. After a while, you'll figure out a way. You know, I kind of vary based off of how difficult the design is and what kind of mood I'm in, to be honest. So hopefully I was able to show you, you know, quite a few ways to do this. This is certainly not the easiest thing that you make, but the great part is that the perceived value is very, very high with this sort of thing. So you know, you're going to hopefully have a lot of luck selling these or just making these. And if you clean this up well enough, then you can always offer this in vinyl as well. So let's fix this right here. We got a bunch of crap. So I'm going to use my eraser for this part and just bring it up like this. and I went a little bit too far, so I just hit Control Z, and I just did I let go so that if I get too close again, I'm not losing all of that erasing that I just did. All right, so we're just fixing it right here. Oh, Control Z, too close. All right, and now while I have the eraser, I'm gonna erase that little dot right there. Now hit this to view our entire workspace, and let's check it out over here. So let's grab it like that. I'm gonna hold down Shift to keep that and that little dash. So we're good there. Hold down Shift, grab this. Now you can delete that. So you can see this line is connected. So I'm actually going to use point editing for this. I'm going to double click. You can see there's a point right here. I'm just going to delete that, delete that, delete that, and then click this one, delete that one, and now it's all within there. And then I can point edit and delete those points on that R as well. There we go. All right, let's view the whole thing. I see some more little dots in here. Let's go ahead and kind of go like that. Hold down Shift, grab it, grab it. You could also, if you wanted, here, let me show you another way. You can also go in and just zoom in even closer and delete it like that. It's really, you know, your preference. I like doing it in a group, but in reality, is it saving much time? I don't know. It's just what I prefer to do. Let's double click to point edit to get rid of that line. And then whenever a point is white, that means it's selected. So I have that. Oops, that's fine. Delete that. I'm just using my select. This one I'll do a bunch because it's a lot of little speckles around there. Let's grab this little guy. So the reason why I'm doing a couple where I'm selecting and deselecting is sometimes the points are a little bit tricky to get to, so it's just easier for me to grab a whole group and then deselect the larger parts so I don't have to be precise with what I'm clicking on, if that makes sense. All right, so let's just get rid of that. All right, let's view the whole thing. Let's see how we're doing. Okay, so I think it looks pretty good. All we need to do now, ooh, there's a little bit at the top that I need to get rid of. Delete that. And so this is going to be curved. I'm not going to adjust it to get rid of that curve. I think that's just how it's going to be. Just delete that. All right. So again, it's never going to be super perfect, but I mean, that's how it is when you trace handwriting. So let's grab this. I'm going to grab it all, right click, make compound path, which is one big complex shape. And I'm going to go ahead and save, and let's go ahead and engrave in Glowforge. So this board is thicker than a 1/2 inch. You can kind of see it's right on the edge. So I dropped it down in there, and without the crumb tray, it still is not high enough for the laser to get to. So I have these 2 small boards. I got them from Target a long time ago, and they equal to about 1 inch, which is a 1/2 inch smaller than my crumb tray. So once you stack that up there, you're able to lift up something that is too thick for the crumb tray, but still not high enough to reach the laser on its own. So I went ahead and did this, and we're ready to engrave. right, so here's my next one. This one is pretty easy as well, but it has lines. So we're gonna work through that. So you can see this image came in like so large. So I'm gonna go to my quick access toolbar. I have it selected. I'm going to lock my ratio and change my width to 11 inches just so that it's smaller. You can see it disappeared. We're just gonna click this button right here to center it to my page. All right, so here's our recipe. I'm not gonna do too much contrast. I'm just gonna see how it traces right out of the gate. So we're just gonna select this whole thing. We're gonna trace those little grapes too and take them out later. Right, we have that. Let's zoom in so we can see how our words look. It honestly, I think it looks really good to begin. So we're just going to increase our trace just a little bit. You can see the words are filling in really nicely there. And bring our scale down. It makes our edges a little bit sharper. And now trace. All right, so let's zoom out. Let's click this. All right, so it moved our trace to the side. Let's grab this little guy and fill it in. Let's see what we are working with. Okay, really not too bad. Let me turn off the line color so it doesn't look so confusing with all the red. I mean, I'm not upset about this. So let's go through and I'm going to use the eraser tool. I actually really like using it for this. So I'm going to increase my size and erase this bunch of grapes. You'll like this a whole bunch. I think we'll be fine not having that. Sometimes you'll have this processing. For me, it's doing that because I'm editing a somewhat large design and I'm also running a recording going on. So you know what happens. We're just gonna let that sit for a minute. All right, so let's continue on. Let's erase this. And I'm gonna keep this recipe for and from on there. So we're gonna keep that. Let's go back to the select tool. So you can see all of that. Let's go ahead and delete that stationary mark that they had on there. So let's go right here. Let's make this smaller. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Oops, I made it larger. And I'm going to zoom in over there. All right, so let's erase that. $1987, how crazy. Okay, now let's view this whole thing. We have a couple more areas. You can see like this is where the page fold was, so we can erase that. And then we have some like speckles going on in here. You see that? So let's go through and take out as much as we can. And for this particular design, we are going to keep the lines. That's going to be part of it. So let's go through. I'm just going to kind of fast forward as I do this, and we'll be back in a minute. Hey guys, this is Editing Lisa. I also want to say while you're watching this part sped up that you could certainly use the eraser tool and erase these lines or do some basic point editing to get the lines out. Just make sure if you're doing this for a customer, you need to charge appropriately because even this took me a decent amount of time. So if you're doing something with lines, it's going to take even longer. So I'm just doing some basic point editing, but this is something we're doing simple conversion for these boards. So here we are guys, our 3 boards. So we have this with the lined style. We have the unlined on our heart board. I think this one's really cute. And then this is one of these smaller charcuterie boards. So hopefully this video helped you. Now tracing can be as easy or as difficult as you'd like. I know some people asked me, hey, can I just bring this picture into Glowforge and trace it? Technically you could. The hard part when you have these photos is that a lot of times there's like a crease, staining, as you can see in some of my videos, so I always think it's easier to just go ahead and do a trace. That way, if you've cleaned up your trace enough, you can actually offer it as a vinyl product too, which is really, really cool. So hopefully you liked this video. Leave me a comment below. Let me know if you learned any cool designing tips or any videos you'd like to see in the future. And while you're here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more videos.